If you study history long enough, you start to notice the same patterns repeating themselves. Threats evolve, technology changes, but human behavior, resourcefulness and vulnerability barely shift at all. That's why, some of the smartest home defense strategies ever recorded didn't come from modern tactical manuals. They came from the civilians, resistance groups and off-duty soldiers of the Second World War. Before we dive deep, make sure you subscribe to The Prepper Historian, because I release guides like this constantly, and you don't want to miss the lessons that still matter today. Now, let's get straight into one of the most underrated knowledge vaults in the entire survival world, the WWII. Chatina Shinterson. The first thing WWII civilians mastered was controlling visibility and information flow inside their own homes. In the 1940s, people quickly learned that the easiest target was the one broadcasting too much about themselves. Homes that leaked light during blackouts, families that spoke loudly in public, or neighbours who shared their routines became the first victims of raids or theft. That principle hasn't changed at all. Today, you control visibility by managing what people can see from the street. No bright screens near windows, no expensive gear in plain sight, no predictable coming and going patterns. One practical step is simply shifting your evening setup. Move your workstation or entertainment area away from front-facing windows. Use blackout curtains at night and keep your lights low. The whole point is to reduce the amount of information a stranger can gather by standing on the sidewalk for 30 seconds. During WWII, this wasn't paranoia, it was protocol, and it made the difference between being targeted or ignored. The next tactic involves the WWII habit of fortifying homes with subtle barriers that slowed intruders without appearing militarized. Wartime civilians weren't building castles. They understood that heavy defenses drew attention. Instead, they used strategic obstacles that blended into the environment but made forced entry noisy, slow, and risky. Modern preppers can build on the same idea. Reinforcing door frames with longer screws, choosing doors that open outward, placing heavy furniture near vulnerable entry points, or using gravel paths around the home to create noise traps are all updated versions of what people were doing 80 years ago. When British families rearranged their homes during the Blitz, they often placed large wardrobes or bookshelves behind interior doors to create secondary barriers. You can apply the same concept by setting up your home's layout so intruders must navigate corners, furniture, or choke points before reaching bedrooms. It's not about building a fortress. It's about buying time. Time equals options, and WWII civilians understood this better than anyone. Another overlooked tactic is the WWII skill of community-based early warning networks that operated quietly and effectively. Long before modern neighborhood watches, people relied on each other. Families exchanged signals, watched the streets, and documented unusual activity, because everyone understood that security wasn't individual, it was collective. You can recreate this today without turning your neighborhood into a surveillance project. Just form simple agreements with 2 or 3 trusted neighbors. Share knowledge about who belongs on your street, and let each other know when you'll be away. Make it a habit to send a quick message when something looks off. Back during the Second World War, neighbors often communicated with tiny gestures, like curtains partially open in a certain pattern, or lamps switched on or off, to indicate safety or danger. These days, you can use basic messaging apps, shared cameras, or even timed lighting setups. The principle is identical. Really, more eyes equals less risk. WWII families also mastered resource caching and redundancy, making sure they could operate even if their main supplies were cut off. Folks in war zones didn't rely on a single location for food, tools, or protective gear. They stored small amounts in multiple places: kitchens, attics, sheds, hidden compartments, even buried containers in gardens. They understood that losing access to one room didn't mean losing everything. You can use that same thinking in a modern context. Spread your essentials across your home rather than keeping them all in one cupboard. Keep a backup flashlight in the bedroom, a small water stash under the bed, spare keys in a concealed location, and a basic toolkit somewhere unexpected. WWII taught that a home with distributed supplies could recover faster from break-ins, bombings, or evacuations. A crucial WWII home defense tactic that still applies today is noise discipline and calm communication under pressure. Wartime families practiced quiet movement, concise communication, and predetermined signals so they didn't panic when danger came close. This wasn't about fear, it was about control. Try incorporating that into your home defense plan. Choose a word that signals everyone to go silent. Practice moving through your house without slamming doors or stepping on noisy spots. Identify which floors creak and which hallways echo. During WWII, families drilled these routines because noise attracted trouble. In a modern context, mastering your home's acoustics gives you a huge advantage during emergencies. It keeps you hidden during break-ins, helps you move efficiently during blackouts, and reduces chaos when quick decisions matter. Another valuable tactic from the Second World War is the practice of creating decoys and misdirection to protect what matters most. During the war, civilians often kept so-called dummy food containers, false hiding spots, and decoy valuables because, looters and troops rarely searched thoroughly. They grabbed what was easy and moved on. You can replicate that by keeping inexpensive but convincing decoys where thieves look first. A fake jewelry box in a dresser, a cheap laptop shell in a living room drawer, or an old smartphone in a visible spot creates the illusion that your home's valuables are low quality or already taken. Meanwhile, your real essentials remain hidden in more secure, less obvious locations. The technique might be 80 years old, but it still reduces loss today. What ties all these Second World War tactics together is their practicality and their roots in real civilian experience rather than theory. They came from ordinary people adapting to extraordinary situations, and that's why they still matter. They rely on habits, positioning, awareness, and smart design rather than expensive gear or elaborate systems. If you apply even a handful of these tactics consistently, you immediately raise the security level of your home without turning it into a bunker. And more importantly, you're tapping into strategies that kept families alive during one of the most chaotic periods in modern history. If you want more Second World War-based survival insight, make sure you subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this video with someone who loves history as much as you do.